He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom, I'll keep my guns, try to keep my money and my religion too. Now keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. I'm going to keep my big B8, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need. We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. My guest today is Bromwell Ault. And Mr. Ault is a retired businessman with a marketing background who's worked in the energy, wind, solar, petroleum, mixed alcohols, financial services, and venture capital sectors. He was a co-founder of the Venture Capital Corporation of America and continues to serve as a special limited partner. He's a political independent, having been equally disappointed by both major political parties, and is deeply concerned about the deterioration of our government, the widespread corruption throughout our society, and the consequent failure of many of our most basic institutions to protect those for whose protection they were created. Hello, Bromwell, how are you?
Good morning, Clay. Fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing well, sir.
Good.
I'm doing well. Health-wise, I'm perfect. My mental state is improving a little bit. I have always referred to the Republicans and the Democrats as two wings of the same bird, and the goal of our enemy and the tactics of our enemy is divide and conquer. Oh, you're a conservative, well, I'm a liberal. Is that accurate, Bromwell?
Well, they're the wings of the same bird in the sense that they both have their claws into the public, and it's all we have. We're not allowed, really, to have more than two parties. The way it's set up, the two major parties control access to the ballot machines. So independent third parties have never made a very good showing in this country, and even with Ross Perot, who had a lot of money and a lot of personnel and a lot of time to put into it, and he got 20%, and that's about as high as any third-party candidate has ever gotten. So the deck is stacked in favor of the two major parties, and they use that advantage.
Now, is what we've been warned for years by prominent people about what's happening right now. We've been warned about it. Thomas Jefferson told us, if you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, your children will wake up homeless in the land we conquered.
That's right.
And to me, the enemy here is the banks, because what you're describing here sure sounds an awful lot like slavery. And isn't this the whole communist agenda? Every plank in the Communist Manifesto, which we were told we were fighting a battle against for 50 years, we're told that communism bad. Well, every plank on the Communist Manifesto is intact in America today. What does that mean?
Well, it means that we started off with sort of a mild connection to the communist credo, and back in the 30s, and the communists came on the scene. And gradually a leftist element built up in this country, and you can call it socialism, or you can call it communism, or you can call it the liberal left, or whatever you want, but it was based on fundamentals that have certainly turned out to be different than ours that were founded with the Constitution. So it is a big factor in our society today. And in the 30s, also the communists and the liberals who came over here from Germany and Russia and had been displaced by the wars over there found their way to the academic community, so that the universities became sort of breeding grounds and centers for a lot of liberal thought.
Well, you know, Khrushchev, I remember him pounding his shoe on the desk at the United Nations and saying we're going to take over, and our education system with the NEA became really a more of an indoctrination system than an education system. We were just talking about that. I had the creator of the Little Red Schoolhouse and the dean of Timothy Bible College on yesterday. So they've attacked our education system. They have dumbed Americans down. I mean, I've told people, I said, the best thing you can do is take your gun out, clean it, load it, shoot the TV, and you'd be a lot better off. That's the most sophisticated mind control tool, propaganda tool ever invented, ever created in our history.
Yeah, our mass media are definitely slanted towards the left and working actively to promote leftist beliefs and thought, and so that's just something that we permit in our democratic system. It certainly makes it tough for the independent citizen who doesn't want to go that direction.
But I've been reporting on this thing for 25 years, and reporting on the whole New World Order, global government. This is a one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers, isn't it? Isn't that what they've got planned for us?
The money sources and the money power in the country have gradually built up their control, and they've done that through both commercial means and also through political means. And as you know, the contributions from the banks to the Congress are just off the chart. And the whole financial services community, whether it's insurance companies or the banks or the brokerage houses or whatever, they just funnel money regularly in big amounts to the Congress. And there's so much money around that it buys a pretty healthy dose of control.
Now, I've almost grown tired of reporting on the whole New World Order, because it ain't a New World Order, is it? I mean, it's been around for 2,000 years. The Bible is a history of basically a 4,000-year history of tyranny, isn't it? And individuals fighting against tyranny, as you are trying to do with your website. Am I correct about that?
Yes, which we refer to the New World Order. It's kind of a murky, group. They're not well identified, but their interests are well identified, and there are leaders that come together, and they seem to have been able, through their power, to bypass a lot of the sort of protective mechanisms that we had in our Constitution. And you read our Constitution and you try and apply it to today's politics, in both domestic and international, and so you draw sort of a blank spot. I mean, there's a disconnect there.
Don't bring that Constitution into my court. I've heard that a few times.
Yeah. Well, we have a judiciary, the system that's gone astray, and they're appointed for life, so you have to kind of live with them.
Well, the reason our Constitution was created was a separation of power. So you had checks and balances. The court balanced the president, the Congress balanced the courts, and
a fabulous system, the way it was designed.
These basically the separation of powers has been the one stop to it was the 13th Amendment, which barred titles of nobility from having a part. And because we've got lawyers, Bar Association, British Accredited Registry, titles of nobility, esquires in our Congress, in our White House, and in our justice system, we've lost it, haven't we?
We've lost a lot of our individual liberties, yes. And whether they go to organizations that are funded by the government, or whether they go to in the form of preferential treatment for certain industries or whatever, they've just sort of been worn away. And I have nothing against having people in this country who differ politically and having a liberal way of thought and a conservative way of thought, but it doesn't seem that now that we're able to resolve those differences the way we used to. And increasingly, we're not able to resolve them at the ballot level. And so that everything, one election just takes place and at the end you start fighting all over again. We're in a constant cycle of campaign and fight and campaign. And the individual vote, when you're trying to establish some kind of system of government, just gets lost. The worst thing about our situation today is we have a very bad government, not a form of government. The form is fine, but the people that we've elected to it and the way government is practiced.
I have a thing that I've done a number of times. If I'm in a park and there's some politicians there and they're talking to a crowd, the cameras are running, and the politician gets up and talks about our great democracy.
Yeah.
I stand up and I say, "Excuse me, sir, could you tell me at what year, what Congress turned our republic into a democracy?"
Yeah.
And the strange phenomena happens. The camera's cut off, the politician disappears, and you got a bunch of people standing around scratching their head going, What just happened? What just happened? Now, what is the? I've worked on this a long time, and you've invested in companies. You've backed companies, haven't you?
Yes. I've worked on both sides of the venture capital format. I've worked with inventors who are entrepreneurs and trying to get a product established, and I worked also from the partnership side, which is funding those people. So I have a pretty good idea of what works in this country, and there's an awful lot of government control of the technology in our country, and it's not intelligent control. They miss a lot of things. When you look at this ethanol thing, that's such an obvious hoax, and it had so many danger signals, and yet the government's pursued it with billions of dollars. It's a sort of a payoff to the farm lobby.
That's right. And how? And what about the whole solar deal? A Solandro or whatever it was, something that they put up there?
Yeah. But that was shocking. I mean, there's $500 million went into that company. And again, the warning flags were there, but nobody in the government wanted to see them because there were other motivations involved.
Now, I've been really excited to have you on because of your expertise. I've said that Obama's idea of greening America is selling the top of that mountain over there. We got Mount Lemon right behind us. Sell the top of Mount Lemon there to a foreign corporation. The foreign corporation imports windmills made in China, brings it over here, puts it up on top of that mountain, and pumps the electricity it creates down to the power companies. The power companies send it to you, and we pay a higher price for our electricity, don't we? Isn't that's the way it works, isn't it?
Well, the electrical rates are mostly controlled by state commissions, I think. You get a utility, and the utility is given a monopoly in a certain area, and in return for that monopoly, they have to apply for rate increases. But the commissions in most states are in the pockets of the utilities, so there's not a great deal of protection there.
Now, I have a different plan. I have a different view. And I wanted to run this by you because I think you've got the experience to advise us on it and tell us if it's a good idea. A few years back, I created a plan for something. I had 5 acres, half a town in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I came up with the idea of Liberty Villages. I almost bought a town. I raised over $250,000 to buy a town called Playas in New Mexico. They had 150 houses there. They had a swimming pool. They had a golf course. It was owned by Phelps Dodge. It was a mining town.
Right.
And the governor came on television one week, and about a week after, after about a month, I'd raised over $250,000 and put in a bid on the thing. The government overbid me by $3 million and turned the town of Playas into a anti-terrorist training camp. Run by the School of Mines up there, where they train a lot of the terror squads from all over the country in Socorro, New Mexico. Now,
what was the population of the town again?
It was about 10 at the time, and they approached all of the inhabitants of the town, telling them about that militia guy from Albuquerque and how he wanted to come down here and sit up on the mountain there and shoot illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the governor came on television and announced that the state of New Mexico needed to buy it, and so they did. But I came up with an alternative plan called Liberty Villages. Now, Liberty Villages was to consist of some low-cost structures, and I have teepees, yurts, and even dome homes, concrete dome homes that can be made fairly inexpensively.
Yeah.
And created and bought. And I figured if you could put 10 families on 5 acres and they're growing their own food and they're generating their own electricity from a windmill or solar units, put it around the top of the teepee, put it on top of the yurts. And if they could do that, their homes start providing them an income. They can sell the electricity back to the power companies, and if they grow their own food, they don't need the banks or the government for nothing.
Well, that's a very interesting concept, and there are some people over in England that have been doing something similar to that. Community kind of greening organizations. But your idea of a combination windmill and solar unit, I think, is that what you're thinking of?
Yes, sir. And I mean, what we really should have is a magnetic generator sitting in the garage, humming and generating enough electricity to power the block. But that's against national security. If you invent one of those, the government will come after you. And they've been doing that since Tesla. You know, they couldn't figure out how to put a meter on Tesla's wireless system.
Yeah. Well, you can get a small wind turbine, and you can hook it up to also have a solar unit with it. And when the wind doesn't blow, the solar, provide energy during the daytime, and at night you have to more or less rely upon the windmill. But that's a good way to take advantage of two sources of power that are certainly available
now,
free.
What's happening here, though, and this is almost more important than the power, is the food supply. Our food has been contaminated. The genetically modified corn, rats won't eat it, but it's being fed to us.
Yeah, right.
And the pharmaceutical industry is, the whole idea is to keep you sick, so you need the medicine. You keep you, we've got 50 million people that have died in this country from cancer, and that's being created by the environment around us.
I think that's true. It's the only thing that can really explain the rise in cancer rates and deaths over the last 100 years. It's coincided very much with our industrialization and the use of chemicals. Now,
do you know what the foundation of every civilization is, according to my friend Richard Kelly Hoskins?
No, I don't.
The foundation of every civilization is the self-sufficient family farm.
It's very interesting.
And the 9th plank on the Communist Manifesto is corporate farms. We're talking about the feedlots, we're talking about the Monsantos, we're talking about the Archer Daniels Midland, we're talking about the subsidized ethanol. And by the way, that ethanol is taken away. We could run our cars on ethanol, but they made a whole generation of Americans into criminals. Oh, you're not a farmer anymore. Oh, you're not a rancher. You're a bootlegger. You're a moonshiner. Now, what my concept here, I've talked about this self-sufficient family farm. Well, that's what happened at Waco. Waco's why I got involved. Waco's why I went out and started the militias around the country. Waco's why I started the Free American magazine. This ain't Red China. What are we doing killing 17 little children to save them from a child molester? I believe that was a psychological operation on the American people. See what they made us do? They resisted by force of arms. Would that be accurate?
Well, the whole Waco thing, it had a lot of different aspects to it, and I never quite decided in my own mind where they all should fall out if you laid them on the table. But it was a mess, and it was a terrible tragedy, and you just hope it never gets that far again.
Well, I swore that I would not stand by and watch something like that happen on television again. That's why I've been doing the show. That's why I have people like you on, because I think we've got answers. And by the way, the answer that I've got, the self-sufficient family farm. Anytime they take over a farm, and they end up killing people, just like they did at Waco. In South Africa, in Rhodesia, they kill the farmers.
Yeah.
And by turning a farm into a village setting, opening it up to old folks, opening it up to children, opening it up to families, opening it up to veterans that can help protect the place. You're growing your own food. I would put these low-cost structures up, because you can buy a teepee for $3,000. If you buy two of them, you live in one and you rent one out to passers-by. In other words, in every village you have a restaurant, a gift shop. You sell solar, you sell wind generators, you sell seeds. You provide information for people and say, look, this is what it's like living in the 19th century. Except we've got all the 21st century. We got the computers, we got the school, we got the schools, everything right there in your house. Right there, the computer connection in Liberty Village takes your children to the Little Red Schoolhouse online, and you can get your college education. I'm working on my master's degree right now. if it's open to the public, and these people are coming there, and people get to eat good food. I mean, the best food I've ever eaten was grown in my grandmother's garden in Weatherford, Texas.
Yeah.
That
was quite some time ago, I imagine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A little over 50 years, but
yeah.
Now people say, oh well, the neighborhood association won't do that. My plan for Liberty Village is grow your own food, generate your own energy, and network so you've got the protection, and so people can see, hey, this isn't a terrorist group, this is the way America was supposed to be, right here, and you can come and you can spend the night in a Liberty Village. Same thing it costs you to spend a night in a Motel 6, and you can see what life is like in a cooperative venture. This is a cooperative venture, and that's what you were talking about. That's the co-ops have been springing up all over Europe, because they've been under their New World Order a little longer than we have, huh?
Yeah. I think cooperative ventures are wonderful concepts, and when they work, they're terrific. You do bump up against human nature from time to time, and when there's some pretty unfortunate aspects of our human nature.
Yes, sir. Well, that's why each village would be run as a unit, as a township with 10 families that are working together to run it. In other words, so we set them up as a covenant cooperative, and you gotta grow natural food, you gotta grow healthy food, you gotta be inspected, you gotta be clean, and you've got to be independent. But you can make solar panels in your garage. My God, they made computers in the back rooms in Taiwan, didn't they?
Well, I guess so. I've never been to Taiwan, but somehow the technology certainly flourished over there. But computers are, I don't know, they're getting awfully sophisticated, and I think you have to keep your machinery to a less than really sophisticated level if everybody's going to be able to use it freely. Certainly a solar panel can operate, and windmill and turbine, that kind of thing.
And those wind generators, those windmills, pumped our water and gave us lights in every farm across America at one time, didn't it?
Yes. Yes, that rotating circular windmill. It was an icon for our westward movement across the country. Every farm had one.
Yes. And now they don't want you to do that, because the neighborhood association might get, this whole thing is adaptable to one square block in Phoenix and Dallas and Texas, anywhere. One square block. If you get out of the house, get off of that easy chair and talk to the neighbors, and you could get 10 neighbors to go along with you and put a garden in the backyard in wind and solar to make your neighborhood, your home, independent and generating capital for you. This could spread across America like a wildfire. This could go viral across America.
Yeah, it's an exciting concept, and I guess you have to find the locality where you want to put it in and get the necessary cooperation and approvals to do it. But it sounds like it would have a lot of appeal to a lot of people.
Well, let's say you own 100 acres in Kansas.
Yeah.
And you got a farm. Now, the farmers and ranchers have told me they can't get help. You remember the old song, how you gonna get them back on the farm after they've seen